He tried to hide his secret. The alien queen found out and smiled. The crimson light of Xylara Prime bathed the spaceport as Kai Novak stepped off the diplomatic shuttle. At 34, he'd represented Earth on 6 different worlds, but never one so enigmatic as the Xylar Dominion. The weight of responsibility pressed against his chest alongside the unfamiliar gravity. Ambassador Novak, welcome to Aridus City, greeted a tall Xylaran official with an elaborate headdress. I am Toran, Vizier to Her Luminance. The palace awaits your arrival. Kai bowed respectfully. Thank you, Vizier Toran. I'm honored to serve as Earth's representative. As they boarded the hover transport, Kai maintained his diplomatic smile while carefully extending his other sense, the one known to only 3 people in the universe. The emotional landscape around him bloomed like an invisible aurora. Toran's mind projected cool efficiency tinged with curiosity. The guards emanated focused alertness with undertones of pride. The Xylar Dominion had agreed to diplomatic relations just 18 months ago, after centuries of isolation. Earth needed this alliance to work. The mineral resources alone could revolutionize terraforming technology back home. Her Luminance Queen Zephyra has expressed particular interest in meeting you, Toran said. Your predecessor made unfortunate impressions. Kai detected the ripple of distaste in Toran's emotional field. I hope to correct any misunderstandings. The transport glided through spiraling crystal towers toward the palace, an immense structure that seemed to capture and amplify the red sunlight. Kai took slow, measured breaths, preparing himself for the onslaught of alien emotions he would soon navigate. Inside the palace, the emotional atmosphere grew dense with hierarchies of respect, ambition, and carefully restrained jealousies. Kai followed Toran through vaulted corridors lined with what appeared to be living crystal formations, his mental barriers firmly in place. The audience chamber of radiance announced Toran as massive doors parted silently. The room stretched impossibly high, with dignitaries from a dozen worlds lining the sides. At its center, upon a dais of luminescent crystal, sat Queen Zephyra of the Xylar Dominion. Kai's breath caught. Her skin was a deep violet that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Elegant cranial ridges formed a natural crown above eyes like liquid silver. Her posture was perfect, regal without effort. But it was her emotional signature that nearly shattered his control. A vast, swirling complexity he'd never encountered. Layer upon layer of feelings, some familiar, others utterly alien, all contained within an iron discipline. Ambassador Kai Novak of Earth, Toran announced. Your Luminance. Kai approached and bowed deeply. Queen Zephyra, I bring greetings from Earth. We are honored by your willingness to strengthen the bonds between our worlds. The Queen's silver eyes studied him, her expression unreadable. Ambassador Novak, your reputation precedes you, a skilled negotiator with an unusual gift for understanding. Kai maintained his composure even as alarm flashed through him. Had she somehow heard rumors? Impossible. I merely listen carefully, Your Luminance. Indeed. Her voice carried musical undertones. We shall see how well you listen in the days to come. As the formal introductions continued, Kai cautiously extended his sense toward the Queen again, only to meet what felt like a smooth, impenetrable wall. In all his years, he'd never encountered a mind he couldn't read at all. For the first time in his diplomatic career, Kai Novak felt truly blind and utterly fascinated. Court intrigues, 3 lunar cycles into his posting, Kai had earned a reputation among the Xylaran court, where previous Earth ambassadors had stumbled through the labyrinth of unspoken rules and taboos. He navigated with an intuition that impressed even the most skeptical counselors. The human understands our ways remarkably well, whispered Lady Nyx, Minister of Trade, to another official as Kai passed in the Crystal Gardens. He pretended not to hear but allowed himself a small smile. What none of them knew was that their emotions betrayed them constantly. The flash of alarm when he approached sensitive topics, the surge of interest at beneficial proposals, all were beacons guiding his diplomatic strategy. Only Queen Zephyra remained a mystery, her emotions shielded behind that impenetrable wall. Today, Kai waited in the small audience chamber where trade negotiations would resume. Ambassador Vrask of the Tellurian Confederacy entered, his reptilian features set in a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ambassador Novak, Vrask greeted, bowing slightly. How fortunate Earth sent someone so adaptable. Beneath Vrask's cordial tone, Kai sensed a churning hostility, and something darker, anticipation. He immediately tensed. Ambassador Vrask. I find adaptability serves well in diplomatic circles. Indeed. Vrask moved closer, though I wonder if Earth truly understands what they're agreeing to in the Mineral Rights Treaty. Before Kai could respond, Queen Zephyra entered with her entourage. Everyone bowed deeply as she took her seat at the crystalline table. Today her formal attire shimmered with embedded gems that complemented her violet skin. Ambassadors, she acknowledged, let us continue our discussion of the Helix moon mining provisions. As the session progressed, Kai noticed Vrask's anticipation intensifying whenever certain clauses were discussed. When the Tellurian suggested an amendment to Section 12, Kai's telepathic sense flared with warning. If I may, Kai interjected smoothly, the language Ambassador Vrask proposes would inadvertently give the Tellurian Confederacy first extraction rights in disputed territories. Perhaps unintentional but worth clarifying. The room froze. Vrask's emotional field exploded with rage and disappointment. A simple oversight, Vrask recovered quickly. Ambassador Novak's attention to detail is commendable. Queen Zephyra's silver eyes fixed on Kai. Indeed, most would have missed such subtlety. Something in her gaze lingered a moment too long. Ambassador Novak, join me for evening meal. There are matters requiring private discussion. Later, dining in the Queen's personal observatory with its view of Zilara Prime's rings, Kai felt increasingly uncomfortable under her scrutiny. How did you know? She asked finally, pouring a luminescent beverage into crystal glasses. About Vrask's true intention with the amendment? Kai chose his words carefully. Experience, your luminance. The Tellurian Confederacy has attempted similar maneuvers on other worlds. No. She handed him a glass, her fingers brushing his deliberately. It was more than that. You knew exactly which provision he had manipulated without reviewing the document. Kai felt exposed under her silver gaze. You are different, Ambassador Novak, she interrupted, in ways both visible and invisible. Her expression softened slightly. It intrigues me. For the first time, Kai sensed a faint emotional echo from her, a controlled curiosity. Had she lowered her guard, or was his ability strengthening around her? We are all different, your luminance, he replied carefully. That's what makes diplomacy both challenging and rewarding. She smiled then, a rare expression that transformed her features. Indeed, and some differences are more valuable than others. As Kai left the observatory that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that Queen Zephyra wasn't just testing him. She was playing a game whose rules he didn't understand. And somehow he suspected she already knew his secret. The test. The northern provinces report unusual seismic activity, Minister Torin informed the gathered counselors and ambassadors. Nothing concerning, but worth monitoring. Kai observed the council meeting from his assigned position, noting the ripple of unease that contradicted Torin's dismissive tone. Something about the seismic reports troubled the Xylaran officials deeply. Queen Zephyra sat motionless, her expression serene. Ambassador Novak, your Earth has considerable experience with geological instability. Would your scientists be interested in studying this phenomenon? All eyes turned to him. Beneath the question, Kai sensed a test. Earth would be honored to assist, he replied carefully, though I sense this may be more than routine seismic activity. A flicker of surprise passed through the emotional atmosphere of the room. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. What makes you say that, Ambassador? Kai maintained his diplomatic smile. The minister's report mentioned activity in the northern provinces, which, if I recall correctly, have been tectonically stable for millennia. Unusual changes often warrant deeper investigation. Queen Zephyra leaned forward. Your memory serves you well, perhaps too well. The following days brought a series of unusual interactions. The Queen invited Kai to cultural events where she spoke in ancient Xylaran dialects, watching closely as he reacted to untranslated conversations around him. She arranged meetings where officials deliberately provided misinformation, only to correct it later, always observing Kai's responses. Each night, alone in his quarters, Kai relived his childhood on the outskirts of New Seattle. How at 8, Years old, he'd first realized he could feel his mother's sadness even when she smiled. By 12, he could sense emotions from everyone around him. The government testing at 16, the classification of his ability as a strategic anomaly, and the choice, military service or diplomatic corps. He'd chosen diplomacy, hoping to build bridges rather than exploit weaknesses. Now that choice had placed him in the most precarious position of his life. One evening, Kai received a summons to the Queen's private arboretum, a rare honor. He found her alone among exotic flora that seemed to pulse with their own consciousness. "Walk with me, Ambassador," Queen Zephyra said, her violet skin luminescent in the botanical lighting. They strolled in silence until reaching a secluded alcove with a small table set for two. "Sit," she commanded, pouring a shimmering liquid from a crystal decanter. "This is twilight essence from flowers that bloom only once a century." Kai accepted the drink, sensing no deception but remaining cautious. "I'm honored, Your Luminance." "Honor has little to do with it." Her silver eyes fixed on him. "Tell me, what do you sense right now in this moment?" The directness of her question startled him. "I don't understand." "I think you do." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to just above a whisper. "You've navigated our court with impossible precision. You respond to unspoken thoughts. You see through deceptions before they're fully formed." Her eyes never left his. "What do you sense from me right now?" Kai's heart hammered against his ribs. This was the moment he'd feared since arriving. Discovery. Yet something in her tone wasn't threatening. It was curious. "I sense nothing from you, Your Luminance," he answered truthfully. "You alone are, silent to me." "Interesting." She tilted her head. "And if I were to do this?" Suddenly, like a dam breaking, he felt a wave of emotions from her. Controlled curiosity, intense interest, and something deeper, more personal. Then just as quickly the wall returned. Kai couldn't hide his shock. "How did you—" "Among my people, mental disciplines are part of royal training," she explained. "I can shield or reveal as I choose." She studied his expression. "Just as you can receive what others unknowingly broadcast." The moment stretched between them, the truth hanging in the air unspoken. "Tomorrow night," she said finally, "you will join me for a private audience. No pretenses, no diplomatic masks." She rose gracefully. "I wish to know the man behind the ambassador's facade." As Kai returned to his quarters, memories of his training flooded back. Warnings about exposure, protocols for denial. None of it prepared him for this. An alien queen who didn't fear his ability, but seemed fascinated by it. Tomorrow night would either end his career or transform it into something he'd never imagined possible. Revelation. Kai stood before the ornate doors of the Queen's private sanctuary, his heart a thundering rhythm in his chest. 2 royal guards flanked the entrance, their emotional signatures betraying nothing of what awaited inside. "Her Luminance awaits," announced one, opening the door without further ceremony. The chamber beyond defied his expectations. Rather than opulence, he found elegant simplicity, living crystal formations, soft illumination that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, and a circular sitting area overlooking the nighttime panorama of Iridus City. Queen Zephyra stood by the viewing portal, her formal regalia replaced by a simpler gown that flowed like liquid starlight against her violet skin. "Ambassador Novak," she said without turning. "Your Luminance." He bowed from habit, though she couldn't see it. "Tonight I am simply Zephyra." She turned to face him, silver eyes reflecting the city lights. "And you are simply Kai, the man with the gift of hearing what remains unspoken." The directness stole his diplomatic response. For the first time since arriving, Kai felt truly vulnerable. "How long have you known?" he asked. Zephyra gestured for him to join her by the window. "Since our first meeting. Your mind reached for mine, a gentle touch, but unmistakable to one trained in psychic awareness." "On Earth it's called telepathy," Kai explained, moving beside her. "I don't read thoughts, only emotions. It's a rare mutation that the government considers both valuable and dangerous. And so they made you a diplomat, she said with surprising insight, where your gift could serve without alarming others. Kai nodded. I've never told anyone outside the program. If this became known, your career would end, she finished, as would Earth's best chance at a meaningful alliance with my people. She turned to him fully now, and with deliberate intent, lowered her mental barrier. A cascade of emotions flowed toward him, curiosity, respect, loneliness that mirrored his own, and something warmer, more personal that made his breath catch. You've been reading me, haven't you, human? She asked, though they both knew the answer. Yes, he admitted, his secret finally spoken aloud. Instead of anger, a faint, knowing smile curved her lips. Good, she said softly. Now tell me what my heart says. Kai hesitated, then opened himself fully to her emotional landscape. What he found there stunned him. Beneath the regal discipline and political calculation lay a profound isolation. The weight of a crown, the impossibility of trust, the yearning for someone who could truly see her. You're lonely, he whispered. As lonely as I've been, always surrounded, yet never understood. Something shifted in her expression, a vulnerability he hadn't believed possible. She reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek with unexpected warmth. In all my reign, no one has ever known me, she confessed. They see the crown, the power, the lineage, never the woman beneath. I see you, Zephyra, Kai said, his diplomatic facade finally falling away. Not just what you feel, but who you are. The space between them seemed to contract, charged with unspoken possibility. Her hand remained against his face, a bridge between their worlds. Among my people, she said softly, a psychic connection is the most intimate form of trust. Her silver eyes held his. Would you allow me to show you? At his nod, she placed her forehead against his. The contact sent a rush of sensations through him. Images, memories, emotions flowing between them like water finding its level. He saw her childhood training, the weight of succession, moments of rare joy and profound solitude. In turn, he shared his own journey, discovery of his gift, years of isolation, the constant pretense of normalcy. When they finally separated, something fundamental had changed between them. No longer ambassador and queen, but two beings who had glimpsed each other's true nature. This changes everything, Kai whispered, aware they stood at the precipice of something unprecedented. Zephyra's fingers entwined with his, her touch both alien and achingly familiar. No, she corrected gently. It only reveals what was always possible. That night, diplomatic protocol gave way to a deeper understanding. As the twin moons of Xylara Prime rose outside the sanctuary windows, Zephyra and Kai discovered the unique harmony possible between their different worlds, tentative touches becoming more confident, cultural differences yielding to universal connection, two lonely souls finding unexpected refuge in each other. For the first time in his life, Kai's gift wasn't a burden to bear or a tool to wield. It was a bridge to something he'd never dared hope for, being truly known. The northern provinces erupted 3 days later. Not volcanic activity as initially feared, but rebellion. A faction of isolationist Xylarans violently opposed to any alliance with Earth or other worlds. The rebels have seized the Helix Moon mining facilities, Minister Toran reported in the emergency council session. They demand all off-world ambassadors be expelled immediately. The council chamber erupted in chaotic debate. Kai sat quietly, his newfound connection with Zephyra, allowing him to sense her controlled alarm despite the physical distance between them on opposite sides of the chamber. Silence, Queen Zephyra commanded, her voice cutting through the disorder. This is not merely a Xylaran matter. The rebels threaten all our world's interests and personnel. Ambassador Vrask rose. The Tellurian Confederacy offers military intervention, which would only confirm the isolationist fears, Kai interjected, earning glares from several counselors for the breach of protocol. Forgiveness, Your Luminance, but this situation requires understanding, not force. Zephyra's eyes met his across the chamber. Elaborate, Ambassador Novak. Kai stood. The rebel leaders believe they're protecting Xylaran culture from outside influence. Their emotions are driven by fear, not hatred. If we approach with weapons, we validate that fear. A ripple of surprise moved through the room at his insight. What do you propose? Zephyra asked, though something in her tone suggested she already anticipated his answer. Let me go to them, alone as Earth's representative. Let me listen to their concerns directly. Uproar followed his suggestion. Minister Torrin stepped forward, emotional signature flashing with alarm. Your Luminance, this is madness. The rebels will execute him on sight. Perhaps, Zephyra said calmly, or perhaps Ambassador Novak possesses unique qualifications for this mission. Her silver eyes held Kai's. Do you understand the risk you're proposing? I do, he replied, and I accept it. Later, in a brief private moment before his departure, Zephyra took his hands in hers. You realize this could end everything we've begun? Kai nodded. Or strengthen it beyond measure. Her violet fingers tightened around his. Use your gift wisely, Kai Novak. Listen not just to what they say, but to what they fear. I will. He hesitated, then added, If I don't return. She placed a finger against his lips. You will return. The connection between us demands nothing less. The journey to the northern provinces took 12 hours by diplomatic shuttle. When Kai finally stood before Matriarch Lysara, leader of the rebellion, he faced not the monster portrayed in council reports, but an elderly Xylaran whose emotional signature radiated fierce love for her world and genuine terror of outside corruption. For 3 days, Kai listened not just with his ears but with his gift. He absorbed their fears, acknowledged their concerns, and gradually built a framework for understanding. When he finally revealed his telepathic ability to the rebel leadership, a disclosure Zephyra had authorized before his departure, it transformed their perspective. Here was an alien who truly comprehended their emotions, who didn't dismiss their fears as primitive or irrational. You are a bridge builder, Matriarch Lysara told him on the final day of negotiations. Not a conqueror. Kai returned to Eritis, city with a peace agreement that astonished the Royal Council, autonomous. Cultural protections for the northern provinces in exchange for continued participation in the alliance. Where military intervention would have cost thousands of lives, empathy had achieved harmony. Queen Zephyra received the news in public with regal composure. In private, she welcomed him back with emotions that needed no words. You have given my world something precious, she told him, as they stood together on the balcony of her sanctuary, the first stars appearing in the twilight sky. Not just peace, but understanding. It's what I've always wanted my gift to achieve, Kai replied. Not advantage or power, but connection. Zephyra turned to him, her violet features solemn. The council has proposed a permanent liaison position, a direct representative to the throne outside normal diplomatic channels. And your response? I told them such a position requires someone with extraordinary insight. Her lips curved into a smile. Someone who hears what remains unspoken. Kai's breath caught as he understood her meaning. That would be unprecedented. As is this, she said, gesturing between them. Two beings from different worlds, finding harmony where others see only difference. She stepped closer, the silver of her eyes reflecting starlight. My people have a tradition when forming lifelong bonds. We say, what my mind knows, my heart speaks, and your soul hears. Kai recognized the ritual phrase from their shared memories. That sounds remarkably like a proposal. It is, she admitted, a hint of vulnerability in her emotional signature. One that would bind not just us, but our worlds. There will be opposition, he cautioned. On both sides. Undoubtedly. Her confidence remained unshaken. Yet what is diplomacy if not the art of making the impossible seem inevitable? Kai smiled then, feeling the rightness of this unexpected path. What my mind knows, my heart speaks, he began the traditional response. And your soul hears, she finished, placing her forehead against his in the Xylaran gesture of deepest intimacy. In that moment, with the stars of two worlds visible in the darkening sky, Kai Novak's gift, once his greatest secret, became the foundation for something greater than either of them had imagined. A union that would transform diplomacy between their civilizations for generations to come. As the twin moons of Xylara Prime rose fully into the night, bathing the crystal spires of Iridus City in their silver light. Kai and Zephyra stood together at the threshold of a new era, one where understanding flowed as freely between worlds as it now did between their hearts. Not just ambassador and queen, not merely human and Xylaran, but partners in the truest sense, architects of a future where differences became strengths and secrets became bridges across the stars.